Well, well, well. The Vancouver Canucks are in a spot where now we are having conversations about their team as if they're not as good as we thought they were. As we thought they were, or as even they thought they were. I think the Canucks are finding ways in spades this year to disappoint everybody that was having a high expectation for their team. The team itself is disappointed, we as fans are disappointed, the media is disappointed, the players are disappointed, everybody's disappointed, everybody knows the team was supposed to be better than what they are. But who knew that this string of inconsistency, the fact that the team hasn't won 2 games in a row since the start of December, the fact that they are just barely at the edge of the wildcard race right now in the West, who knew that all these factors combined would have led to the Vancouver Canucks changing their parameters on a trade? Let's talk about JT Miller once more and go over to tsn.ca and look at this insider trading video. The Devils and the Hurricanes are among teams in talks on JT Miller. This article will be linked in the description alongside of our ExpressVPN affiliate link. Go out there and use Express if you want to get some free months on your VPN and want to save some money using our affiliate link in the description. You could also help out the channel by doing this as well, so I'm always very appreciative. But this TSN article/video is going to be in the description as well. The reason I like it is because not only does it have the 5-minute video segment of the TSN Insider Trading crew talking about the scoop, but there also is a word-by-word transcription as to what is written about here, as published by the tsn.ca staff. So, let's go out there and read what Pierre LeBrun spoke about in regards to the JT Miller talks and how things seem to be progressing. Let's turn our attention to the trade front. There was all kinds of talk about a JT Miller trade coming close between the Rangers and the Canucks, but that didn't unfold. Pierre, are we now at the point where we're saying when and not just if the Canucks are going to move Miller out of Vancouver? Pierre LeBrun then says this. Yeah, that's the sense you get when talking to people involved in this situation, that everyone seems to agree that the end result will be a trade eventually. What they can't predict is when exactly. Could be as early as this week, could be closer to the March 7th trade deadline, could also be in the summer and the offseason. You know, we could still be talking about this, so get ready for that. A couple of things that are important to note. One is that Miller hasn't given the Canucks a list of teams that he would waive for, although in those conversations between his camp and the Canucks, there's a sense of the general parameters of the kind of team that would make sense. And yes, there are teams other than the Rangers that have been in talks with the Canucks for Miller. One of them is the Carolina Hurricanes, who are looking for an upgrade on offense, and the Canes are looking to see what would make sense if they make an offer to trade for JT. The New Jersey Devils, the Rangers' rivals, they have also been a late entrant in this, and they have held talks with the Canucks and JT Miller. I also think that internally, the Devils are trying to sort of suss out if it makes sense to go all in on this or not at this point and where they are. The Dallas Stars, with all that cap money they can spend with Tyler Seguin on the shelf, that's a team that a lot of people believe JT Miller might waive for. Will they make a pitch? There are other teams involved. But, and this is the interesting part, and it's why we're making this video, one thing the Canucks have sort of changed their tune on when this started 6 or 7 weeks ago with talks on JT Miller, the Canucks said, we need apples for apples. We're trying to make the playoffs here. We don't want to do a futures deal. The Canucks have relented a bit on that. They would do a futures deal when it comes to making a deal with a contender like a Carolina or a New Jersey, because they understand those teams don't want to trade away from their core. So, still to play out here, but the Canucks are telling teams, we're not giving this guy away. We'll see where it goes. And this is pretty big. Because for the longest time, we were saying all this talk about, oh, the Canucks need to trade Miller for a defenseman. Oh, they need to trade for a guy who can help them make the playoffs right now. And then we had learned that the Canucks are actually interested in trading for a center. And it's like, okay, well, Miller for another center? Well, how are you going to win that kind of a trade? You would have to get a center and some other stuff, right? So now, hearing that the Vancouver Canucks would be more inclined to take on futures, prospects, and picks rather than just straight up a roster caliber player, it does open the door to more opportunities. There was an idea floating around on Canucks social media discourse the past few days that says, okay, if the Canucks trade Miller, let's just say for a bunch of picks, they get a prospect or something that's super good and whatever, Who's to stop them from trading Miller for a prospect and then using that prospect and the draft stuff that they get to flip it for another player? Let's say, I don't know, you go over to Anaheim. You want to get a Troy Terry or something. Like, obviously, you're not trading away a JT Miller to a team that's rebuilding or a team that's young like Anaheim. But if you trade Miller to a team like Carolina, you get some prospects, you get some guys back, and then you immediately flip those assets to a team that actually is looking for younger players, and you get some older guys, then it makes sense. There is more maneuverability if you open up your options and you just acknowledge, okay, the New Jersey Devils are probably not going to trade away Brett Pesce. They're probably not going to trade away a guy that is already contributing in a meaningful way on their team. What about Simon Nemec? What about a guy that's in their prospect system that is quote-unquote rotting away? A guy who's already expressed that he might be on the trade block himself. He might ask for a trade if he continues staying in the AHL and not getting any NHL development time after having an NHL season last year. There are a bunch of guys around the NHL that would be valuable that just don't play in the league yet. And guys that are prospects or draft picks or whatever, these can all be accrued and used in Vancouver to flip for other assets that can help them out right now. If the specific JT Miller trade price that they're looking for isn't being met by any of these contender teams, because let's face it, Miller himself is probably not going to waive for a rebuilding team. He wants to win, right? We know that's one of the biggest parts about his personality. He always wants to win, no matter the cost. So why not trade him over to a team that will be willing to take him on, grab a whole bunch of futures, and then decide, okay, maybe before we weren't trading away a first-round pick, but now we got two of them. So let's trade one away alongside of another prospect to get a player that can help us out now, and that can be the Miller roster replacement. I'm sorry, but I don't really feel comfortable having a P.S. Suter or a Teddy Bluger as a second-line center. They would definitely need to get themselves another guy to fill in those minutes. It's just right now, JT Miller is not giving consistent, even second-tier center gameplay on the ice. I mean, with the amount of turnovers and the lack of back-checking that we had seen the past few weeks here, sure, he has an amazing game once in a while, but it really is just once in a while, and nowhere near indicative of what Miller is capable of when he is fully engaged and he's playing his best. So with this in mind, I think things are changing pretty heavily on the JT Miller trade front if the Vancouver Canucks are starting to reduce their price. They're changing the parameters on what it is they would want in a JT Miller trade. No longer does it seem to be just JT for a roster player. Seems like they'd be willing to do a trade for futures with some picks and some prospects to really maximize whatever value they can get, because other teams will also evaluate those assets and see value too. So that makes things more interesting. I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. This, of course, the video, the interview segment with Pierre LeBrun, it's going to be in the description if you want to go ahead and read/listen to this yourself. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Does this change the dynamic for trading JT Miller as much as I think it does? And which teams do you think will be able to take advantage of this the most? The Devils, I think, are one of the teams that are near the top of the NHL, so they probably don't want to tinker around with the guys they have on their team right now. But what about the guys off the team? What about Simon Nemec? In Carolina, you're talking about some prospects that were moved around for Jake Guentzel last year. Could something similar happen here? Let me know your crazy JT Miller trade ideas in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.